Hello.
Hi.
What's up, everybody? I'm Kate. I'm Her Culture CEO.
And I'm Emmy. I'm Her Culture's CFO.
We're really excited to have our first live chat with you guys, and we have a lot on our agenda tonight. So you guys can ask us questions. We have our chat open, and we're excited to hear from you.
And feel free to ask anything you want. Just keep it appropriate.
Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm a senior in high school. I'm the editor-in-chief of my newspaper and my yearbook. I am also a high school ambassador for Her Campus. And I started this project because I noticed that there's really a lack of knowledge in terms of our generation and actually lots of generations for different cultures around the world. And we really felt that it was about time that we fixed that. So, yeah.
Okay, so me and Kate go to the same high school. I'm also a senior. We're both in the college app process right now. And I'm not really that interesting, I guess.
You're very interesting.
I'm not the senior. She's the senior editor. I'm the business manager for our school newspaper. I do fencing. I fence nationally. I'm USFA ranked and USFA member. I fence for clubs. That's mostly my life. And I love writing. I love business. That's pretty much it.
So I guess we'll run through a little bit of our cultures.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm 75% Italian. A lot of other European stuff too there. And let's see. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Egyptian. I do have my roots in Middle East, and I do take a lot of Arab culture just because, and Middle Eastern culture just because obviously it is my lifestyle. It is my parent. It's in my family. It's my grandparents. My grandmother does live with me, so obviously I have to take from her as well. Um, I think culture is something that defines us. And as much as we like to think that it doesn't, we're American, I think the way that we take American culture and we assimilate it into our own culture is what makes us unique. Because that's what's going to define us as human beings.
I definitely agree, and I definitely think that it's important to share that culture because if you become informed about other people's cultures, then you could better understand yourself and your place in the world. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Because, I mean, just hearing about Italian culture from Kate is so interesting to me that, today Italian culture, especially in Jersey, has become so, like,
So
underwhelmed.
not
Like,
true.
yeah, but when you think about it, there is so much, it's so rich. And especially the background and the people that came here and, type of prejudice that they went through. That's something that really needs to be appreciated, especially by modern society.
Yeah, especially because with Jersey Shore, I don't know who's out there that's watching
That's
that,
Jersey Shore.
but
Yeah.
that's very. I feel like sometimes it can be derogatory to my culture because I feel that me and my grandmother and my mom were also we're also grounded in our culture, and to have somebody kind of shame that
Yeah.
hurts, but that's why we feel like it's important to do this.
And beyond that, there are a lot of women that culture really takes over their lives in tradition. So, especially within the Middle East, different Asian cultures, some South American cultures, not as much in America just because our culture is kind of different and we're trying to be westernized. But you do see that women are having to be tied down by their traditions, by getting married at an early age, and by being by having these types of problems within their lives. So they're getting married at young ages. They have to face things such as female cutting, and they have to face other family issues, lack of education, just because they're they're enclosed in this type of situation where they don't have any access to other types of culture. And the internet has created the opportunity for us to try and help out these people and help out these women and empower them. So that's our mission.
Yeah, and it starts with it started with one person, and now
Now
we
it's
have so
a
many
bunch.
great girls underneath us that are helping us out, and it starts with that one idea, and then it can turn into something global, and that's what we're hoping to do with Her Culture, is to allow a lot of women around the world to just feel like they have a safe environment that they could share what they're about, what their beliefs are, who they like to talk to, what kind of symbols represent them, what kind of clothes that they wear that makes them feel empowered.
Absolutely.
We're definitely, looking for that global image,
absolutely.
I think.
And the experiences and everything, because culture does make us, and we just need to learn how to break out of the traditional norms if we need to, or to embrace them and to learn about other cultures, because technically nobody's wrong. You can't tell somebody that they're wrong about their culture.
Mhm.
It's just the way that we try and change it and the way that we try and modernize it is what's important.
And that's definitely, I think that that's a great point, is that, nobody is wrong in their culture. It's a celebration of each other's differences and
Yes, absolutely.
similarities, and I think that's important. So we have a question. It says, from your perspective, how does your school break down in terms of cultural numbers?
Oh, wow.
And that's a good question.
Our school is 98% Caucasian.
It's not 98%.
It actually is. Mr. Searles looked it up.
Okay,
our district is 98%.
Apparently, our district
Caucasian.
is 98% Caucasian, and that usually is either Italian, Irish,
Mostly European.
Hebrew slash,
Yeah, mostly European, and maybe Israeli there. So you can count yourself.
Yeah.
Some people from the Middle East can be counted in there, but typically you can fall under African American too, and that's pretty much it.
But we're kind of in a very
we're
in a very not diverse area, which
it's secluded just because we are the farthest from New York, so not as many immigrants came over to this area of New Jersey.
Similar types of immigrants came.
Yeah,
it wasn't like a whole plethora of cultures, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially, I don't know. But that's also part of the reason why we created this, was so that we can learn about stuff that we don't see every day.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's cool that Emmy's sitting right next to me. And, she teaches me stuff every day about her culture. Not the website you have to, her personal culture. So,
I think the way that we share our cultures and the way that we're trying to find out about other people's cultures, that's something that's unique, because especially where we're from, I don't see a lot. There isn't a lot of culture around here, and there is a lot of culture, but a lot of people have they become detached from their cultures. A lot of people start to think that Caucasian or European, that really doesn't have any culture. For example, Italian. But in reality, there's a lot of culture behind it, and I think we need to learn to embrace that. And just because I'm Egyptian, 100% Egyptian, does not mean that, you don't have your roots in Ireland or England. Those countries all have culture as well.
Yeah, I agree. We have another question. It's, how is your friendship affected by the differences in your cultures? Ooh, good question.
Oh, wow.
I think. Well, actually, what we've been talking about lately is college applications, and we've been bouncing off ideas. And I don't know if you want to share what your essay is about, because you haven't submitted it yet.
Okay, sure, why not? My essay is mostly about my religious journey throughout, my life and the culture, assimilating into American culture through my Egyptian traditions. So, my essay is really talking about, the hardships that I went through with that, and where I stand today, and how I view American and Egyptian culture, and how that empowers me to, move forward in my life and be somebody that can be successful, and to help other women around the world to understand that, just because your culture from the Middle East, for example, ties you down in certain ways, you can break away from that, and it's not always going to, tie you down, because obviously I want to go into business. Obviously I'm educated, and I want to do something with my life. And a lot of women are deprived of those rights.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's a great point. And, our friendship, this is so hard.
I think,
it's really cool because she loves my grandmother, and my grandma is, she's the Italian grandmother that, everyone kind of knows about. And, it's kind of cool because it brings us together in a way, because we're able to share these new things with each other. And, I drive her home, and we talk about, really cool things with our cultures and stuff. And, she tells me about her grandmother, and how her grandmother taught herself how to read some things and speak some things in English, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
So that's really cool to hear. And then, she knows about my grandmother, so we definitely share that. But then, it's also cool because we know each other's differences.
Yes,
we can
absolutely.
appreciate that.
And I think within both our cultures, I mean, personally, I think it has helped to strengthen our friendship because a lot of people don't have that type of the type of connection that they can share through tradition and culture. A lot of people are friends with people within their culture just because they can share the language, for example, or the traditions that take place at home or their religious holidays. But we can share that just because we can understand each other's cultures and we can take part in each other's holidays and we can be happy for each other when something happens within different religions, different traditions, different cultures. So I think it's important. I think it does help to strengthen our friendship just because we can understand each other and we're willing to open up about our opinions about our personal adventures within our own cultures. And I think that's important.
All right, another question. What was your inspiration for developing this site? Okay, so like a week and a half ago. That's how long this has been up, really? I think. October 5th.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was October 5th. No, I remember it.
that would be almost 2 weeks, actually.
Okay, almost 2 weeks.
Almost 2 weeks, guys.
I had this assignment for my AP Italian class, and it was making the connections between Italian culture in America. So, for instance, Starbucks was a big topic that we talked about in school, and how Starbucks is kind of Italian, but kind of not Italian. I mean, they try to integrate some, and trust me, I'm a Starbucks fan. I mean, if you read my post recently, I have Starbucks earrings, but anyway. So it was kind of that whole Italians in America kind of connection. And they also talked about, fashion and how the malls here are a lot different, a lot bigger than the ones in Italy. Mm-hmm. And also in Italy, their lives are so much slower than here in America. In Italy, they come home for lunch for an hour or sometimes 2 hours in the middle of the day just to spend that time with their family and take a break from work or school. Here we spend 9-12-hour days working, and we come home and we're so tired and run down, and it's just a very fast life here. And that's good because it's just different. Yeah. But so anyway, this assignment was to connect those two things, Italy and American culture. And I really felt like I had to do a lot of research to figure out what I was talking about. And I thought that if we can make a forum for women to share their cultures, how much easier and more accessible it would be for us all to have that, and how awesome that would be to, share that culture and then have that, have that option, have that experience. So that's kind of why I thought of this. And I've always wanted to create a website, so I thought it was a perfect match.
I mean, from my experience, Kate has always had these intense ideas. She's very creative. So when she came to me with it, and I saw like her Facebook post, like, oh, what should I name it and everything, and she came and she said, do you want to do it with me? And I was so excited because this is something that I've always wanted to do too. That spreading the culture and understanding other women's cultures and creating this forum for, I mean, expressing yourself. That's so interesting to me. And I think we do share similar goals for the website. I mean, the same goals. And she had the idea, but I think we've put together our brains to, come up with something that could be successful.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And she's like the whole money numbers person over here. Yeah.
So. I mean, I'm just really interested in business just because it is something that I can understand easily. So I can understand that and I can do it. But I'm still interested in like the writing because I do like writing. I do like creative writing and fictional writing as well. Mm-hmm. So, but that's definitely Kate's thing. She's the writer in the whole. She's like the creative. Yeah, it's just different. It's just we put our brains together to come up with something.
Yeah, definitely. All right, another question. Do you think as families go from generation to generation, their cultural boundaries are blurring, or do you think it has been a back and forth process? Oh, wow. I actually was thinking about this the other day. I think it's definitely starting to blur. That's the right word? I guess it's. Mm-hmm. I feel like, especially our generation, we don't have a good idea of what our heritage is or what our culture is. I mean, that's part of the reason why I started this website was because I wish I knew more about, where I come from, whatever, and we try to find it, and, it's just difficult, and especially, we live in such a fast-paced world. We're always like moving, moving, moving. We don't have that chance to kind of reflect and think about
Yeah.
where we've been. I mean, Emmy might have a different situation, but I definitely think generally it's blurring.
I think I think culture is something that is so difficult because for me, I mean, just personally, I don't take culture just from Egypt, even though that is where my roots are. I take culture, I mean, I've traveled all over Europe. So I do take my favorite place in Europe of all is definitely Germany. And I do take a lot from Germany just because people there are very free spirited and they hold these high values for themselves and they're really creative and they want to do things and that's their lifestyle. So I think that culture is something that needs to be is something that is worked into your life. So you take what you want from each nation. The reason that I don't agree with the blurring, I just think it's becoming different. I think the ideas are being assimilated in a way from each culture, from American culture, from Mexican culture, from German culture, from Middle Eastern culture, Asian culture, and you're bringing it all together to come up with something that you're comfortable with, that you can understand, that describes you.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding your roots is very important. I just see that in a modern world, in a Western world, you're going to find obviously certain things that are flawed, for example. I mean, not flawed, but different, or that we don't use as our morals anymore. For example, like women's rights. That's a hot topic in a lot of cultures and traditions, just because women don't get an education.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the way that what you pick and choose from each culture, and the way that you learn about cultures and their dances and their food. That's what's important. Not this cutting edge thing where it's just strictly your culture, because culture is something that needs to be shared throughout the world.
I agree. I definitely agree. That
Thank
definitely
you.
changes my opinion. Let's see.
I mean, I've thought about this a lot, especially just from my own culture, from seeing people within the Middle Eastern region, being what's the term? Being like enclosed in this, just because they don't have the
like
options.
isolated.
Yeah, they're isolated within their own cultures, just because they don't have the opportunity to learn about other cultures. For example, Malala.
Okay, we got a follow up. So in other words, you are born in culture, but that will not be the only culture that can be you. Oh yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
I think that I'm so heavily influenced by people around me, and it's not just strictly Italian or just strictly Irish. And like Emmy said, it's important to understand other cultures so that you're not. Well, I think so that you're not like left behind. I think that what's going to help us as a world, as as a generation, is knowing and recognizing what else is out there.
Yes, absolutely.
And taking that in and then relating it A to you and then B to everybody else. So
I think, at least for me, the way that the world is becoming interconnected with the internet is so valuable, because even if you don't have the resources to go travel the world, and it has become easier to travel, but even if you don't have those resources, you can still find out about other cultures. And that's what's going to make you, if you just never had any culture, if you never had any stories, you never had any background, who would you be? You really wouldn't have a personality. And culture is what makes us who we are, and it's what makes Kate who she is. It's what makes me who I am, and it defines all of us.
And lately, I've been hearing a lot of this idea of a well-rounded person, and we're in the college application process, and they're telling us, or it's a general notion that you need to be well-rounded in order to achieve success. And well-rounded could mean you're good in math, but you're also good at writing.
Yeah.
It could mean you're good at Italian and you're also good at Hebrew. I mean, it could be a whole lot of athletics and then academics.
Yes, absolutely.
It's definitely this whole notion of a well-rounded person, and if you have access to that, then that's what's gonna help us.
And the
help
same
us as
thing
a generation.
with the well-rounded thing. athletics. Every single sport has its own, soccer, for example, has roots in Spain. Different. It doesn't really have roots in like Middle Eastern culture, but it has roots in South American culture and Spanish culture, and it goes back a really long time, back to like the Aztecs when they were playing, soccer with this rock, basically.
Yeah.
So all sports, everything that we do today has its roots in something, and we are taking parts of different cultures, especially in America.
And building off of that, I was just talking about this in my modern European class. We were talking about how, right before the Protestant Reformation and everything, people were starting to have this education that people would do a lot of different things and learn about a lot of different things. And, that, I believe, was the catalyst to what, we do today. That's why in high school we have so many different classes, and even college you have to take a whole core curriculum. And, that is what, we want and we think is valuable.
And like in Rome,
Mm-hmm.
where the well-rounded man,
Mm-hmm.
where you're supposed to, in Athens actually, where you're supposed to know everything, and you were supposed to be good at soccer. Not at soccer, at sports, and be smart and be good at music, just because they wanted this well-rounded person that could achieve anything, that had the potential and the skills to do anything that they needed.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're trying to achieve today. We're trying to have, even if you can't succeed at something, you can succeed at something else. You will always have the options open to you.
And also, you can appreciate what other people are able to do, even if you're not able to do it. Wow, you could say, "Oh, wow, great job! That's really cool. I wish I could do something like that," and you could have that. So, that's what we think. All right, so we have another one. Do you feel bullying is rooted in cultural differences or something else? Ooh, tough one. You want to answer that first?
Actually, I do have an answer for that because, as I already mentioned, I am Egyptian. So I did actually experience, bullying my freshman year because I used to wear the headscarf, but that's unrelated. Um, People used to call me a terrorist, and they were kind of malicious about it. And even today, if I go out, some people will still be malicious and say mean things. And I don't think that this is rooted in culture actually at all. I think it's rooted in the fact that, there was terrorism, malicious actions, 9/11 that happened, and people are still bitter about it. And honestly, I'm not upset that people are saying things like that. I just wish that they would take the time to understand that not everybody's like that. There are millions, if not billions, of Muslims in the world. So we're not all like that. There's a small minority that act in that aspect. So it's not culture, especially because Muslims are all around the world, and they're not just, they're not just Middle Eastern. There's also Asians. There's also Europeans. There's also Latinos. So
I think sometimes it can come to an extent of bullying, and that's the unfortunate aspect of it. But there's definitely stereotypes that I think. I mean, at least in my experience, especially in my high school, there's definitely stereotypes that people have about certain cultures. For instance, I don't know a good way. Like, for instance, if you're really Asian, smart. A lot of people in my school tend to believe that they are very smart and that they are very successful. And that's obviously a positive. But you can take that too far sometimes, and then instead of getting to know a person, you may judge them automatically by their culture without knowing that you're doing that. Human nature is to automatically
think that.
Make a decision before anything. Yeah.
For me, I really don't think that that's rooted in culture. It might be a little linked to race, and that's a different story. But culture is more like your traditions. It's how you run your life and how you what you do at home, how close you are as a family, like the different things that happen within your own, native nations, and then back here within your own families and within your own life. Mm-hmm. So I don't. For example, with the Asian thing, I don't believe that it's culture. I believe that it's more just linked to race, and then beyond that, it's more just being unknowledgeable about understanding that not everybody's the same. We're all still human beings, and especially because now there are like interracial people, and there are a lot of interracial people. So how can you link that to race or culture? Because we're all mixing at this point. It's just the old stereotype where everybody is their own. We just stick to our own cultures, and we're just all trying to, mix in this melting pot. But it's not. It's the melting pot has, it's gotten a lot. It's really, I guess, melted in a way, and now we're all integrated.
Definitely. And that, you kind of brought up a good question. That what is our definition of a culture?
Yes,
absolutely. Is it the way we perceive people? Well, no, because we believe that it's deeper than that. The definition of culture to us is the way in which a person lives, and that is totally, the way they dance. Maybe that would contribute to their culture. The way that, certain types of food that they eat, certain clothes that they wear. This whole way of living is what we believe defines culture.
Yes.
And therefore, I think Emmy's right that it comes down to more of a racial kind of stereotype that's more bullying rather than our definition of culture.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Let's see. We have another question. Throughout your schooling career, have you noticed a change in the diversity and culture around you, either limiting cultures or expanding cultures?
Have you noticed a change?
Let's see.
Have I noticed a change in diversity in culture? Absolutely. I mean, okay, fine. Let's go back to, let's talk about my mother. So my mother went to school and she came here and she was bullied because she was 14, she knew no English, and she was the only like Egyptian person that people had ever seen in their entire lives. Today, I am certainly not the only Egyptian person that everybody has ever seen in their entire lives. And honestly, it's become a lot more widespread that, I'm taking parts of Italian culture, I'm taking parts of Asian culture. And it's not just me, it's everybody. In reality, most of our generation, most of the teenagers kind of act and, react, and we kind of are the same in a way. We, at least in attitude. So we have taken from different cultures and we've made it our own, and we've made it our own identity. So there is more diversity in culture because I'm taking from Kate even though she's Italian, and she's taking from me even though I'm Egyptian. So we're mixing our cultures, and that doesn't happen just between our friendship. That happens within the entire school, within all of society.
World. I mean, especially in America.
Especially
we tend to think that we're very accepting, even though sometimes that line is blurred, unfortunately. But at least in our area, we're very diverse and we're able to communicate with each other, and that's important.
Yes, absolutely.
That one. Okay, so we have a follow-up, and then we have another question after that. So the follow-up to our question about do you feel bullying is rooted in cultural differences, the follow-up says, then the solution to bullying must be education.
I agree with that. And I will tell you why I agree with that.
All right, you take it away first, and then I'll say my little piece.
No, you go ahead.
No, you can.
Okay. I definitely agree with that for one main reason. For me, the reason that I don't get upset when somebody calls me a terrorist is because I know that that's their personal opinion. It's because they've never really seen that many Muslims in their life. They've never really even interacted with Muslims. So why wouldn't they have a bad impression of me? That's what they've heard, that, we bombed the Twin Towers. I'm certainly not blaming you for thinking that, but I think that if people were more knowledgeable about different cultures and different people and different races, then they would understand that not everybody's like that, and that we need to understand that we're all just human beings. This is just a lesser extreme of slavery, for example. They didn't believe that they were human beings back then. They thought that they were similar to animals.
And property.
Exactly. And it's just because lack of education, that wasn't even culture. That was more just they didn't understand that these were actually human beings. I definitely
think that the solution to bullying is education, and our question, put it in quotes. And I think that brings up a good point. Well, what is education?
Mm-hmm.
What is the most basic form of education that somebody can have in order to, not bully or to not be bullied? Bullies, I think, in general, they're fearful of what they don't know, and if somebody is different, then you're going to possibly attack that person because you don't know about it. You don't know about that difference,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't, you didn't take the time to educate yourself about that difference. And educate yourself could mean as simply as going to that person and saying, "Hey, let's talk about this. I really like that you're Egyptian. Can you tell me a little bit about it?" So that I understand. Like, I personally don't want to be a person that stereotypes based on like race or culture. And that, I would definitely go up to Emmy and say, like, wow, when she did wear her headscarf, I was really fascinated with that. And I don't think I ever approached you about it because I was afraid of that.
Yeah.
And that was my,
Actually,
fear of education. I might have said something. I don't know. But I always thought that, that was fascinating. And that's how that's how I think that we can combat bullying.
I think, yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I have seen people that are more open-minded about it, especially, for example, Kate, for example, a lot of my other friends. The one thing that I've seen is the people that are malicious. The reason that they are malicious is because the education that's provided at home tells them we should be malicious to these people because they don't deserve life, type of a thing. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think that education needs to be like the main focus, even in schools, just to provide everybody with the understanding that, we're all still human beings and there's always going to be a malicious person independent of race, religion, culture, traditions. That's always going to be there. Mm-hmm. So just the basic understanding that they teach us in school is so important.
Okay, wow. We just got like a ton. Wait, let's do this one. Okay, so this question, oh gosh, okay. This question says, how do you think culture will change in a more global society?
Do you want me to go?
Well, a global society, I'm assuming, is that we become more unified in terms of our culture. And
interconnected.
I took a class over the summer. It was called Growing Old Around the Globe, and part of the class was, talking about this sense of a global society that, we're losing our diversity in terms of countries, mm-hmm. and that more and more people are moving around, and it's becoming not as distinct as it used to be. For instance, Italy used to just be Italians, and now, you have all these different cultures coming into Italy, and that has always been the way. The way for America. But so all of these countries are now becoming more global because they're losing their distinctiveness. So culture is definitely going to change because of this. You're going to start having a mixture of, religion, definitely, mixture of dances. I mean, is there one American dance that we do, or we do a combination? We have so many things that are just different, and they come into play because we have such a mixture, and it definitely changes what has always been so distinct. Is now it's not becoming as distinct because now you have all these different people coming in and influencing it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, we got some cool comments from pretty awesome people.
Okay. Well, yeah. Clearly people
so
agree with that.
All right, we have another one. Somebody said, "Why are we so pretty?" Well, I mean, thank you.
That's so sweet.
That's a great question. Okay, so now okay. Do you think popular culture has a generally more positive or negative effect on diversity and attitudes between cultures? Wow.
That's a
good question.
Yeah, that actually is.
Does pop culture mean like
pop
music?
Popular music that's on the radio, basically.
Okay.
So
but like MTV, I'm guessing. Or, okay.
Yeah.
Like everything.
Yeah.
Celebrity.
Everything that's popular to teenagers for.
All right.
Or teenagers, I guess 25 maybe. Something in that range.
You want to answer first? Because I
Um,
gave a long answer.
Okay, so I think popular culture. I mean that has its own culture. I don't know if it even it takes a lot from a lot of different cultures and a lot of different origins. So my opinion is a lot of it is very original and unique. So I mean, rap and that has taken its own roots from jazz, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and then otherwise, I guess this fad to go to be fashionable. That's kind of our own thing too. A lot of it is just very original and it doesn't take its roots from different cultures, but I think it's creating new cultures, which is important
Mm-hmm.
because in modern day you're not seeing that people are. I mean, we don't really have that much culture left over from the Byzantine Empire, for example, but we're creating our new culture within American society, within teenagers and our own generation. So that's something different. That's something that's going to carry on for generations. And pop culture take from doesn't really take from other cultures. So I don't think it doesn't affect diversity. And it affects attitudes and just creating additional culture for us to assimilate into. So I'm going to take culture from Egyptian, Asian, all these different cultures. Then I'm also going to take culture from pop culture, and that's going to make me the human being that I am today. And pop culture is just this new type of culture that is just becoming part of modern day society. And that's my take on it.
Yeah, and the follow up to that was popular culture goes from sports to music to movies and TV. Oh, just a side note, Rosemary Rivas, hello. Very enthusiastic. Nice to see you. Okay. So anyway, the follow up to the popular culture thing. So I think it's I think it's very difficult because we're so heavily influenced by pop culture, especially my generation. And I think it does have a negative effect. We were just talking about Jersey Shore,
Yeah.
a couple minutes ago, and I live in an area around the New Jersey Housewives, and they sometimes, fit the Italian culture, what we consider
Occasionally.
appropriate over here, but so that TV aspect and reality TV, I think definitely has a negative effect on attitudes between cultures. Because if you think about it, how many people look at a New Jersey Italian and say, "Oh, well, they must be a meatball" or something, And that's really unfortunate because we're a lot different than that. And like Emmy said, people judge her based on past events in America, and that's not really fair to her because that doesn't give her the option to express herself and to make her own first impression before anyone else can make their own opinion. Yeah, agree? Would you say popular culture plays into that?
I think popular culture plays into like reducing definitely our culture.
Mm-hmm.
Like I with the Italian thing, I can definitely agree with that. But my take on it is that it's reducing our education on different cultures, but it's becoming its own new culture. The way that we see Italians today, and the way that we see different types of cultures, it's influenced by it because for some reason popular culture is trying to take on different cultures and I guess change it, but I think it's going to be something prominent in our lives just because it's something new. And old culture is something that as human beings we're going to need to make efforts to keep making it prominent within our lives.
Yeah. I agree. Okay. Let's see. I don't know if we have any other questions.
No more questions?
I don't know. We'll give you a couple seconds. Hi to Rosemary again. We're very lucky to have you watching us. If I check Facebook because I have notifications, maybe it's a question, but will it shut off the video?
I don't know.
Let's see if we have some questions over here. Looking for questions.
Okay.
maybe over here, maybe on Twitter we have some. Hold on one sec. Okay, so.
Okay, great.
Okay, let's see.
So,
no more questions.
Why don't we talk about, do you want to talk about the November magazine that's coming out?
Oh, yeah, we can definitely talk about that. Okay, so I'm super excited because I've always wanted to make a magazine since I was, like, little. Mm-hmm. And I finally figured out a way to do it online without using InDesign, which is a program that's I'm not going to use. So we're making this e-magazine that's going to have clickable links and everything. It's going to be so cool. So it's coming out in November. Probably not the first day of November because I'm doing college apps and those are more important right now. But let's see. One of our features is called Thanksgivica, and this is really interesting to me because some girl on Facebook approached me with this idea that Hanukkah is falling around the same time as Thanksgiving, and it's very hard to integrate those two cultures at one table. Mm-hmm. And so this girl was saying, well, why don't you make a feature of this whole idea of, blending those two things. Thanksgiving is very just American, and Hanukkah is obviously
it's
Hebrew
and Jewish.
Very different than Thanksgiving. So that's one of our features. We're also going to be talking about integrating your culture into your college applications, and that's definitely really cool.
Yeah, it's important.
That's important because, colleges want to see something that'll make you different and unique that you can also bring to the college. So if you want to share your culture, well, that's a new perspective.
Yeah.
That would be good. I'm going to be talking about the government shutdown, but I'm not going to get into that right now. What else is our feature? Oh, Malala, which we'll get into later because we love her. She's great. Okay, so we have a couple questions. How do different cultures make us the same? You take that first.
Okay, so like I said before, a lot of what we're answering has to deal with, our generation, just because, that's what we can relate to. So how do different cultures make us the same? Of course, just between us two and all our friends, it affects us in so many different ways. The way that we act, the way that we lead our daily lives, that's affected by culture and our lifestyles. And we lead similar lifestyles for a reason. It's because we learn to share each other's cultures and we learn to share each other's traditions. So, for example, around Christmas time when we're exchanging gifts, I'm not Christian, but do I love Christmas? Of course, I absolutely love Christmas. And that's just us sharing culture, and that's us integrating and understanding each other and understanding each other's lifestyles and really trying to appreciate how important Christmas is to, some of my friends and what that can do for me to get it to, try and take part in the festivities. And everybody wishes me a happy holiday when my holiday comes around too. So the way that we lead our lives is just we're integrating cultures together, and that's related not only to religion, but just our daily lifestyles.
Okay, that was beautiful. Just a side note, Rosemary, again, if you have a question, then you can type it out and we'll answer it. So, yeah.
You're great.
Okay. Let's see. We have one that says, how are you? Well,
great.
We're doing great. I mean, this is our Friday night here. But we're really excited to be spending it with you guys.
Absolutely.
So this is a really cool project. And we were talking about doing this maybe once a month.
Yeah, probably. We're going to try to do it
at least once a month. And then if it gets to be a thing, then maybe more. But
yeah,
I'm going to start that way. So we're doing good. Okay, let's see. How important is religion to our cultural understanding? Ooh. Okay, well, my religion is Catholic. Christian, and then, I'm Catholic. So my religion plays a huge part in my everyday life. My decisions are influenced by, my prayer and what I believe God has led me to do. And, and I appreciate, other religions too, but this is just what I believe. And so in terms of my culture, I'm going to make the decisions for my life. And, remember how we defined culture was your
Yes.
entire way of life. So my religion definitely contributes to my cultural understanding. Also because I'm mainly Italian and, the Pope and the Vatican are
Yeah.
in Italy. So that kind of just automatically connects me there. But I think it's the whole idea behind, what your religion tells you to do. My religion tells me to, spread the word of God and to, be an advocate of kindness. And, that influences my culture because I think about that with every decision that I make. Do you agree? Or
Absolutely. I
Okay.
totally agree. Religion is so important to your culture, and it's important to your lifestyle too. Whether or not you want to, I think everything in our culture is rooted in our morals. Everything is rooted in some way to religion and popular religion. So whether you're atheist or not, you don't think that lying or stealing is right, and that's rooted in some form of morals and religion. So our culture is rooted in general popular religion, and for example, in where Buddhism is popular, that's where their Buddhism is going to be rooted in their culture and their lifestyles.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, what traditions are important for you to pass on to your children? Why? Well, we got another question that says, why are they so pretty? Well, you guys are just flattering us so much. Okay.
So cute.
Okay, so back to the question. What traditions are important for you to pass on to your own children and why?
You wanna start?
Traditions. No, you start.
Okay. My family has this tendency to really throw very little importance to traditions, and I love traditions. They're like my favorite thing in the world. So I get really around my holiday times, we always bake 50 pounds of cookies, legitimately 50 pounds of cookies. And for some reason we didn't do it this year because I don't know, it's just been really busy on us, and with college applications and everything, it was way too busy for us to have the opportunity to do something like that. And I think that it's so important to spread traditions to your children because that's part of my culture, and I intend to do that with my children, to bake 50 pounds of cookies when I'm older. And I think that spreading traditions is the way that you spread culture to your children, the way that you give them a little part of the mix of culture that you've gotten and give it to them. That way, they can adopt it if they want to, and if they don't, then they don't. And they can spread it throughout generations, and that's important.
Yeah, cool. I don't know if it's a tradition or just, I don't know, but my family eats dinner together every night. And that is definitely something I want to pass down, to my family and my children, because that is the one time of the day when we can all be together. And honestly, I've been running around so much lately that I barely see them throughout the day. And that, half hour to an hour of time that I sit with my family is, I learn so much from that. And, I connect with them on an even deeper basis every time because it brings us back together after the craziness of the day. So that is definitely one tradition that I'm going to pass down. Also, back to the whole religion thing, every Christmas we go to Christmas Mass, either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And that's always a great time to reflect and just think about the year and think about, how our religion has affected us that year. And I really, really like that, and I really like going. And, sometimes we'll get there 2 hours before church starts so we can have that front row seat and in the first pew. But it's worth it because that's a great tradition, and we grow even deeper in our faith and in each other. So I want to pass that down. And also, we just started something last year that we've been putting our successes and achievements in a glass bowl. And, my whole family is just, putting stuff in there. I'll get some out maybe. And I'm not going to read them, but...
That's so cute.
And then on New Year's Eve, we're going to take them all out and read them. So that'll be really fun. And, see what good things happen to us throughout the year. So, yeah. All right. Let's see what else we got. Okay. One question. Can you imagine a world without culture? I think that would be impossible. It's really hard not to be influenced by the world around you, and your culture is what's influencing you, and also taking over the whole part of your life. So, a world without culture would I see it as a disadvantage to not have culture, honestly.
I think a world without culture would be a world where everybody's just blatantly boring and unoriginal. So, I mean, for example, think about this. Say you were just put in a box, or just some random human being was put in a box after they were born, given basic necessities, and then came out, and like that was it. At 18, you brought them out. What would they act like? That's because they would have no culture. They would have no personality. They would have nothing, and they wouldn't have, even if they had human interaction with people that had no culture. Like, even if you put a bunch of human beings in there, they wouldn't know how to act or react. They wouldn't know how to live lives because they wouldn't know what they are doing, because nobody has previously gave them information about what they are doing. And I think culture is so important to us because we wouldn't be able to live our lives without it.
I agree. All right, another one. I kind of read this while she was talking, but do you think all cultures have been created, or will culture be an indefinite creation?
Oh, wow.
Okay, well, so philosophical.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, like our previous question was, how do you think culture is going to be affected by a global society?
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening is that I think we are losing our distinctiveness in culture because of the integration of, people are coming in from all over, not just in America, but, in European countries, in African countries, everywhere, and it's just mixing. And so I don't think that cultures will be created, but I think that they'll change, definitely, and they'll adapt to the people that are now in that culture. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, so, yeah. I don't know what else to say for that.
I mean, I just have one little thing to add on. I totally agree with Kate, but my take on, I mean, it's not, let me just make this clear in my perspective. I think that culture is something that can always be adapted, as Kate said. So there's always going to be somebody within the culture that might want to change, and if they push for it hard enough, it'll come about. And the reason that we have some old world culture that has been modernized yet is because there aren't people within the culture yet that are really pushing for it. But as that happens, then culture will adapt and change, and it's just going to be something that is constantly changing. And for example, with pop culture, you're going to have new cultures coming out as well, because some cultures die out, new cultures come back in. That's how I think that's how the world runs.
Definitely. Okay, so we got some fun. Well,
those are interesting.
Like fun. I meant like different. Okay, what is your favorite thing to do? Well, I'm really into making short films. I made one over the summer called Dear Jenna. Look it up on Vimeo. And it was shot all on my iPhone, and I had 2 days to edit it, but I submitted it to a film festival, and unfortunately it wasn't picked, but so I'm really into that because I think that, you can give off such emotion to people, and I think that that's really cool to be able to do that. So I love doing that. I'm continually learning new technology on how to do that. I use Final Cut Pro, so.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm still learning how to use that, but that's what I do. So, that's my favorite thing to do, I think. One of them. I don't know, there's a lot of things.
My favorite thing to do is probably, I mean, other than, like, going out and, like, seeing friends and everything, it's either to write fictional stories, because I'm really into that, or read. Those are probably my two favorite things. Reading. We're both really into reading.
Wow.
So enjoyable.
Yeah. Okay. Next
Hobbies.
one. What are your hobbies? Well, I kind of said one. Obviously writing, because
she's
editor.
really into that.
Really into writing. I like poetry more than short stories, because I lose my patience very easily.
Really?
I struggle with finishing books. I tend to read half of them and then start the new one. So it's hard for me to focus on, a huge thing. So I mean, short stories aren't huge, obviously.
Yeah.
But I like poems because it's a quick thing, and I could get out
Sure.
so much emotion and experiment with format. And with short stories, it's kind of basic. I mean,
understand.
generally, but with poetry, you can like play around with. I like to do experimental poetry where it's sometimes written in a circle or sometimes written in a staircase.
Oh,
kind of a
really?
thing.
That's
Yeah,
so
that's what I
cool.
like
Yeah.
to do. So
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
She's more creative on that.
No.
I'm definitely like, let's write stories. I guess my hobbies other than writing would probably be fencing,
Mhm.
and because
Fencing is
that's
good.
basically my life, and then swimming and soccer sometimes. That's it.
Okay, so we got a cool comment. It may not feel like it now, but you two will be cultural icons. Well, thank you. That's so nice.
That's like
okay,
so
so we're
sweet.
getting the timer that there's 3 minutes, but I don't know if it'll shut off or if it'll just.
I feel like it will because we. Yeah.
Wow, we
pretty
still
sure
have so much to talk about. Okay,
Wow, guys.
well, we might need to have another one soon, but we're so excited that we were able to have our first live chat, and we're really excited to have more. Thank you for joining us and for giving us your questions and for listening to our sometimes crazy stories.
That was really enjoyable, and we hope you enjoyed it.
We're excited to see what else Her Culture has in store. If you want to check us out, it's www.herculture.org. You can tweet us at herculture, and you could also find us on Facebook at herculture. We have an Instagram and a Pinterest at those names too. So again, that's at herculture, and our website is www.herculture.org. If you want to contribute a blog, we'd love to have you, and also we're looking for writers for our magazine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.